Justin Baldoni has put out a website with tons of receipts in regards to the entire "It Ends With Us" situation with Blake Lively. Justin's lawyer has been teasing that this website was going to be coming out, and honestly, I wasn't sure if it was going to, because Blake and Ryan were trying to do everything they could to keep from this website being released. But it is out, and we are going to break down some of the events that Justin did bring up in his timeline of events on this website that have not been mentioned before in any of the other previous videos covering this entire situation. In the last couple of days, there's been major updates to this Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni situation. It's not just the website that has come out, but Blake's legal team has also been pretty vocal about things. We've recently learned that Blake and Justin's lawyers are getting everything in order for their big court trial, which is scheduled for March 9, 2026. On February 3rd, 2025, attorneys for Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni met in court for the first time regarding Blake's lawsuit alleging harassment and defamation during the production of "It Ends With Us." The judge warned both legal teams to refrain from public statements that could influence potential jurors. And before this court hearing even happened, we learned that Blake and Ryan sought a gag order to prevent Justin's attorney, Brian Freeman, from publicly discussing case details. Justin's legal team opposed the gag order and said that Blake has brought this dispute into the public eye herself. And we also learned that Blake's legal team objected to his lawyer, Brian Freeman, conducting her deposition. But according to reports at the February 3rd meeting, the judge basically said that Blake doesn't get to choose who deposes her. Now, since my last video updating on the situation, Justin has filed an amended complaint that we're going to talk about because he has made this very easily accessible for the public to read through. In this updated filing, he not only continues to claim that Blake defamed him, but he also alleges that the New York Times worked with her to ruin his reputation, accusing both Blake and the newspaper of carefully planning a smear campaign against him. To back up his claims, Justin launched a website where he has now shared text messages and behind-the-scenes documents, trying to provide evidence for his side of the story. The website is thelawsuitinfo.com, and anyone can access these documents to read them for themselves. And on the website, you can see his amended complaint as well as a document of the timeline of relevant events in relation to this case. Online investigators have delved into the metadata of the New York Times website and uncovered information that Justin Baldoni and his legal team are now utilizing in their case. This is in the amended complaint. This is also included in the timeline of relevant events. Basically, Justin and his team have found this HTML source code that is suggesting that the New York Times was working on this article about Blake's complaint against Justin as far back as October 31st, 2024. That is what they are alleging in the amended complaint, which is well before it was released in December 2024. Justin's team argues that this metadata indicates a premeditated effort to defame him, supporting their claims against both Blake and the New York Times. In a statement, Justin's lawyer said, "The decision to amend our lawsuit was a logical next step due to the overwhelming amount of new proof that has come to light." Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Freeman, said in a statement, "This fresh evidence corroborates what we knew all along, that due to a blind pursuit of power, Miss Lively and her entire team colluded for months to destroy reputations through a complex web of lies, false accusations, and the manipulation of illicitly received communications. The ongoing public interest in this case online has ironically shed light on the undeniable facts pertaining to the New York Times and how heavily Miss Lively and her representatives were not only deeply involved in the attempted takedown and smear campaign of Mr. Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and their teams, but that they themselves initiated it. The lawsuit says Lively, Reynolds, her publicist, and Jones, among others, set out on a campaign to tar and feather the Wayfarer parties in the press. They conspired and worked in concert with the New York Times. The Lively parties laid their trap carefully over a period of months before springing it all at once on the eve of the winter holidays." And before the amended complaint was made public, I actually saw a TikTok by Be Better Company where he was explaining the whole metadata and this discovery that he had made. And I honestly think that Justin's team is very much on TikTok and saw this and was like, wait, there's something here.
Just stop what you're doing immediately, because I think I just discovered something in the Blake Lively Justin Baldoni fiasco that could be breaking news. So, if you guys have been paying attention, you would know that people have been freaking out because they investigated the metadata of the New York Times article and discovered that things were embedded at around December 10th. And in other words, this means that the New York Times was working on the article weeks before the lawsuit was ever filed, which suggests that Lively colluded with them to put together the article. When I heard this, I was like, duh, that's not surprising, because the article was published the same day that the complaint was filed. So obviously they didn't just whip it up in a couple hours. They obviously were working on it for an extended period of time. I'm like, it doesn't make the New York Times look great, but I didn't think it was like breaking news. So I looked into the source code, I think that's what it's called myself, and I found out that when you look at the metadata for the embedded articles, specifically this image, the one of the text messages, you can see that it was actually embedded on October 31st. And if you look to the side, it says message embed generator. And I think what that means is it's some kind of an app that they use to make these texts look prettier. So you can see these texts are real in the sense of the words that they actually said, but they're not direct screenshots. So they were sort of Photoshop them, but make them look more legitimate, if that makes sense. So if this is true, and you guys can please correct me because I am not a tech savvy person at all, so maybe I'm getting this wrong, but the date clearly says October 31st. So doesn't that mean that they were working on the article as early as October 31st? And if that's the case, the reason why that's so scary is because it means that the New York Times was actually colluding for months, which sort of furthers the narrative that this article may have been the real smear campaign. I don't know. I could be wrong, so don't crucify me if I'm wrong, but this is just what I discovered.
Like I said, it seems this video most likely helped Justin and his team crack down on the New York Times, and they're sharing more information on the website that they published. On the website, in their amended complaint, it says, the 4,000 plus words of the New York Times article dropped less than a day after Lively apparently filed her CRD complaint. The close coordination between Lively's team and the New York Times, likely over a matter of months before the CRD complaint was filed, is plain, and has now been proven beyond doubt thanks to internet sleuths from around the world. Upon information and belief, the New York Times loads images and other data files for its website using a file naming convention that indicates the date that the data file in question was created or loaded onto the website. As members of the public soon discovered, the URLs for various images in the article point to dates as early as December 16, 2024. The screenshot of the date is then attached, as well as this one. As other members of the public pointed out, web crawler data appears to indicate that the PDF of the CRD complaint linked within the article was uploaded to Times servers even earlier, specifically using a search engine to search for the CRD complaint within the Times static document repository, where the CRD complaint is stored and referenced by a link in the article. Shows that a web crawler, a program that scours the internet to locate and catalog websites and files, recorded the CRD complaint PDF as having been uploaded as early as December 10, 2024. In another image they shared, however, as various online commentators have noted, this may indicate that a web crawler cataloged an earlier created version of the document that was then replaced with a new version that was identical except for the creation and modification dates, causing the web crawler to view it as the same document. In other words, one plausible explanation for the mismatch between the web crawler's date and the file creation modified dates is that the New York Times re-uploaded the CRD complaint at the last minute, specifically to cover up the fact that they had been colluding with Lively and other Lively parties for weeks. The New York Times also uploaded a video to accompany the article in which Toohey breathlessly reports the easily and thoroughly disproven smear campaign narrative as what really happened. But careful observers noted that the file name for the video appears to indicate that this was created on December 12, 2024. They also pointed out the video represented as unquestioned fact the false and defamatory claim that the Wayfarer parties orchestrated a smear campaign against Lively, and concluded in a fiend somber tone, this story reveals a new playbook for waging a far-reaching and largely undetectable smear campaign in the digital age. This video, as much as the article itself, constituted a malicious and reckless act of defamation and false light invasion of privacy by the Lively parties against the Wayfarer parties. There is even reason to believe that the Times has been working on the article months before, at least as of October 31st, 2024. Careful observers reported that viewing the HTML source code for the article revealed references to a message embedded generator that referred to a date of October 31st, 2024. Of course, it may be the case that the New York Times just happened to load a new tool for embedding text messages within an article as part of routine system upgrades, only to stumble 6 weeks later upon the perfect opportunity to show off this new graphic tool in an article that relied heavily upon cherry-picked and misleadingly reframed text messages. But the simpler explanation is that the New York Times had already begun building its defamatory article no later than October 31st, 2024, including developing a slick new graphic display module to prominently feature the misleading, edited, and context-stripping text messages centered in the article. It may seem unsurprising and even respectable that a news organization should work for weeks or months before publishing a purported investigative report, but the significance of the timing of these elements of the defamatory article is that they strip away the legal shields that Lively, The Times, and other Lively parties were likely relying on to protect their malicious act of defamation, such as the litigation privilege and the fair reporting privilege. Given the full scope of the article's misleading manipulations, it's unsurprising that they would feel the need to attempt to erect protection against suit. So they are clearly trying to say that the New York Times has been working on this story for quite some time now. Justin on this website is also including tons of text receipts where it is clear that he is discussing with his team that he does not like what has been in the press about Blake at the time that the movie had come out, and wanted to make sure it wasn't their doing what was being said about her negatively. His team had texted at the time saying, "This just ran. Obviously, none of us knew about this either, but once media goes in, they go in, and the best thing we can do right now is be quiet. Let's get through this week together, then just move on and back to regular planning with Instagram posts and thoughtful ideas and messages. The content creators are on fire, and Justin, she has handed it to them all on a plate. Just concentrate on the success of the movie, your family, and your next project. I have this weird feeling that she's going to reach out to you for a conversation in the next couple of weeks, or he will." Another set of text messages from his PR team that say, "Completely unsolicited story from TMZ. Blake has a huge ego. Justin Baldoni was liked by many cast and crew, and this is her ego being bruised, etc." The post has a similar tip, not from any of us, totally not from us. These are clearly people on set coming out to defend Justin Baldoni, which is good, and we just let them do their thing. The reporter told me her rep is working overtime. Justin at one point texted his team saying, "Definitely don't want to play stories, and yet just want to change the narrative. I wish they would write that I only said nice things about her and never spoke disparagingly of the cast, and so it's apparent the feud only works one way, and would love to start to move towards the future of what's next. Not sure when the time would be right, but announcing that I'm directing Pac-Man I think would be a good move sometime soon." And on the site, they wrote, "Lively and The Times, while they collaborated closely on the article, must have known the text messages were unscriptedly altered and selectively embedded, enabling Lively and her team to propound a false smear campaign narrative designed to destroy the Wayfarer parties for the Times knowingly or reckless dissemination." Aside from calling out the New York Times, Justin has the timeline of events document on his website, and it details events starting from January 1st, 2019, when Justin initially emailed Colleen Hoover about buying the rights to the movie It Ends With Us, and he also shows her suggesting to him to play the role of Ryle. He includes the email that she sent to him that says, "Have you given any thought to whether you would want an acting role in this? Say maybe Ryle, I could see it." In the timeline, he also inserted a photo of his handwritten notes from the intimacy coordinator that Blake did not yet want to meet with until they were already shooting. He took notes when he met with the coordinator and met with Blake to tell her what she said for this scene, and this was later used against Justin in Blake's complaint, as she was really uncomfortable by the things he was suggesting, even though he is claiming that he was only relaying the information the coordinator had suggested and what was in his notes. There's also a screenshot of the part of the script where he was supposed to lift Blake. You can see it says, "Ryle scoops her up." This was the scene that Blake in her complaint said did not exist and made it seem as though it didn't exist, so there was no reason for Justin to ask their shared trainer how much she weighed, because claiming that he only asked their trainer this because he wanted to prepare his back for the lift because he has medical issues with his back. But Blake was like, there was no scene, so she was taking offense to this, feeling like Justin was asking her weight because he was body shaming her. But Justin was bringing the proof here, saying that there was a scene where he was supposed to scoop her up. And this whole drama, though, is what apparently Ryan Reynolds was berating Justin about when he had come to their penthouse, because Ryan was accusing Justin of fat shaming Blake. Now, this event, according to the timeline, happened on April 25th, 2023, but clearly didn't hold Blake back from inviting Justin to LA days later. Justin reveals in the timeline that on April 27, 2023, Baldoni feels homesick. His family is back in California, and it has been weeks since he has seen his kids. Lively offers to have Baldoni fly with her to Los Angeles and back for the weekend so that the two of them can continue working on the script, 6 hours there and 6 hours back. By all accounts, Lively feels at ease with Baldoni and is not only willing but invites Baldoni to share an airplane cabin with her and her children. And he includes text messages where he is texting, "Blake just offered to fly me to LA with them tomorrow at 2 p.m. so we could get 6 hours of work on the script in and then fly back Sunday and get another 6. And noted, this is when things really shifted. On April 28, 2023, Baldoni flies to Los Angeles from New York with Lively and her family. For the duration of the flight, Baldoni and Lively work on the script. On April 30th, 2023, they return together to New York. May 1st, 2023, Lively begins altering the script daily. The frequency of Lively's revisions and input alarms the producers, who anticipate that her interference would persist every day of the shoot and disrupt the careful planned production schedule. He also noted that on May 5th, 2023, Wayfarer holds a respect in the workplace meeting via Zoom with the production team to review appropriate on-set behavior and other HR-related matters before principal photography begins. This is a standard part of pre-production and employee training, and he attached this image that said it was on their schedule, respect in the workplace meeting via Zoom. In addressing accusations that Justin initiated unscripted kisses, he wrote that on May 22nd, 2023, Lively and Baldoni perform a scripted kissing scene in which their characters get engaged at the hospital. In the sequence, Lively pulls Baldoni in to kiss her. It is clear Lively was initiating the kissing. In one take, she pulls Baldoni in and kisses him once, in another twice. Lively determined the number of kisses based on what she felt necessary for the scene. Though Lively improvised the number of kisses in this scene, make no mistake, the kiss itself was written into the script and was in no way improvised. Contrary to Lively's CRD complaint, there was no inappropriate improvised kissing on set. Any improvisation was made by Lively herself. Note, no intimacy coordinator was present on set for this day, as is standard when two professional actors with over 3 decades of combined working experience perform a scene in which only kissing is involved and no other intimacy, nudity, or stimulated is required. Furthermore, during preparations, Lively and her attorneys did not indicate in her nudity rider that she wanted an intimacy coordinator present for scenes involving only kissing. Instead, in line with industry practice, focused solely on bringing one on for the stimulated and nudity scenes. He also addressed the birth scene of the movie, where Blake, in her complaint, said that she was so uncomfortable and that Justin failed to close the set. And Justin shows that it was, in fact, a closed set. He also shows her text from after filming this day, where she said, "Thank you, I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball buster, but it means a lot to me. I care a great deal and always want to deliver. You were terrific. I'm proud of everything we did today, but really every day." And when it comes to whose movie did better with a test audience, because as Justin is claiming, Blake took over this movie and she cut her own version, and apparently she had said that whoever's movie scored higher with the test audience, that's the one that the studio could go with. Justin's movie, according to the papers that he had included in his timeline, his movie scored 94% with females under 35, and claims that Blake's scored 82%, but as she threatened that Colleen Hoover wouldn't promote the movie unless it was her version, the studio ultimately went with Blake's cut, according to Justin. He also attached the screenshot comparison of their scores, and also added that Wayfarer and Sony paid for a second official audience test screening of Lively's latest cut. Scores marginally increased across the board, scoring 83% with females under 35, still 11 points short of Baldoni's cut. Later, we learned that Ryan Reynolds was involved in promoting the movie through his company Maximum Effort, which Sony hired to produce promotional content. But things got messy. Costs skyrocketed, they went over budget, and the promotional shoot focused on quirky, lighthearted ideas like baking cookies and ironing jeans, and completely missed the film's serious theme of DV. In the timeline, it said, on a Zoom video conference between Wayfarer and Sony marketing, Wayfarer learned that Sony had been dealing with extensive notes and revisions to the marketing plan as a result of the content shoot, because Sony ended up hiring Reynolds' company, Maximum Effort, to produce the promotional content for the film. The cost for the shoot significantly increased due to their fees being higher than what Sony had originally budgeted. Notably, this charge was despite Lively's claim in January 2023 text to Baldoni that Maximum Effort would work free for the family, as shown below. Despite ultimately approving this, Wayfarer was told that Sony was not allowed direct access to the footage, which they had paid for. This shoot included the cast baking cookies, floral arrangements, ironing patches on jeans, and other quirky ideas that completely completely missed the point of the movie, skirting the issue of DV entirely to the detriment of all those involved. As noted in the email, Sony did not have much opportunity to be involved in the shoot. Now, after the premiere of the film, the internet, as we know, began to obviously suspect drama among the cast, and also Blake was facing tons of backlash for how her and the rest of the cast were promoting the film compared to Justin. Justin alleges in his timeline of events that Blake and Ryan actually wanted him to issue a statement in regards to the reason why Blake and the rest of the cast were promoting the movie together and why Justin was promoting the movie by himself. The timeline said, WME, Abel, and Heath discuss a yet another conversation between WME and Reynolds. WME shares that Reynolds and Lively are furious with Wayfarer and Baldoni for positioning them as promoting the film as a Barbie movie while elevating Baldoni to speak on the more serious messaging. Reynolds and Lively purportedly believe Nathan is responsible for this positioning and demanded that Wayfarer release a statement of contrition taking accountability for the negative press towards Lively and Reynolds. They warn WME that absent compliance, the gloves will come off. In turn, Reynolds tells WME that he would personally draft a statement for Wayfarer to release immediately. Heath and Abel are astounded that Reynolds and Lively blame Baldoni and Wayfarer for their self-inflicted PR nightmare. Heath had consistently communicated that neither Wayfarer, Nathan, nor anyone on their team was manipulating the internet using bots or seeding stories about Lively's or Reynolds' character. All press stories were organic and directly resulted from Lively's own tone-deaf marketing approach. Two WME executives, Heath and Abel, participated in a call to review the statement drafted by Lively and Reynolds on behalf of Baldoni, Heath, and Wayfarer. Upon review, WME concurs with Wayfarer that the statement was vague, implies culpability without substance, and fails to address the issues at hand. Furthermore, if the goal was to mitigate negative online attention directed at Lively, the statement would have the opposite effect. In response, Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath reject the demand, firmly refusing to issue any statement falsely assuming responsibility for non-existent issues. And this was the statement that they had apparently written for Justin. It says, "It Ends With Us was a troubled production, which we take full accountability for. We are very sorry to everyone we caused upset to privately and publicly. Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover, the entire cast and crew led with professionalism every step of the way. Any negativity aimed at them is ours to own. We mutually agreed that the cast would be promoting the film separately and understood why. We have always said we are not perfect, and even if unintentionally make mistakes, we will always own them. We hold ourselves accountable. It's not anyone's job but ours, and that's part of being man enough. We will practice what we preach. We are learning and growing from the experience, and we thank everyone for their patience as we find a better way to proceed. We are very proud of the film and the welcome arms that it's been received. Part of our work is to have uncomfortable conversations for public growth. The film is doing that on screen, and we are doing that off screen. Thank you to the cast, crew, and public for the opportunity to be imperfect and to be given the space to learn and grow with humanity and dedication." And apparently, after seeing this statement that Blake and Ryan allegedly wanted Justin to put out, his publicists then were discussing that he needs to hire a lawyer. They needed him to lawyer up because they were getting a bad feeling about this. I mean, this statement alone, it felt like they were wanting him to put out a statement about, hey, I'm the problem. I'm the reason why we're not promoting the movie together because something's gone down, and this is me owning it. Which no wonder he didn't want to post that. Now, the timeline then shows that after this, Blake went into damage control, posting on her Instagram story about DV in the film and the important conversations that should be had. And in Justin's amended complaint, he ended it by saying, "In the end, empowered by her celebrity firepower and her powerful allies, Lively did exactly what she set out to do. She took someone else's movie for her own, destroying years of creative vision and careful planning in service of her own brand-building campaigns. But why would Lively even seek to seize power over the film? Why would she insist on taking on additional work for no additional pay or credit? On information and belief, Lively may have been motivated by a number of factors. She may have wanted to seize control over the film so that she could take over the production of the sequel It Starts With Us. This motivation also explains why the cast, who may have hoped and or been promised a role in subsequent productions, would choose to side with the powerful couple who themselves may genuinely believe they could destroy Baldoni and Wayfarer and force them to cede or even sell the rights to the sequel. Or Lively may have felt driven to match her star husband Ryan Reynolds, who was widely reported to have insisted on taking so much control over the film Deadpool 2 that the director Tim Miller left the production. Seeing the fame and success that Reynolds commanded, she may have adopted his oft-repeated pattern wholesale to seize her own power and control, following his lead and evidenced by many statements by Lively that he is involved in every project she works on and vice versa. Lively and Reynolds, accustomed to getting their way, perhaps felt entitled. Regardless of why Lively insisted on seizing control of the film, that is precisely what she did. There can be no justification for her Machiavellian and civilly extortionate tactics deployed to grab complete control over the film. Lively also sought ultimate control over the film in the hope of boosting her own brand and business ventures. In the end, though, Lively's own words and promotional strategy led to an avalanche of negative press. This website, you guys, is just about 400 pages of a lot of information to digest. We really haven't seen this stuff before. We haven't seen Justin talk about that statement that Ryan and Blake wanted to make, amongst some other things that were included in the timeline of information. He's really trying to lay out his side of things and defend himself against the claims that Blake was making about him in her original complaint. It really just is insane to see all of this come out, but clearly Justin is doing all that he can to try and, like I said, clear his name. But certainly want to know what you guys think about all of this. I know not everybody is on Justin's team here. This is just Justin's side. Obviously, we're talking about it because this is the information that he's brought to the table. I have a video talking about everything in Blake's complaint as well. So let me know where you guys stand in this whole situation, what you guys are thinking about. Let me know if you guys